Hi, welcome to another episode of Blooming Voices. As always, I'm Anita. So today we are going to talk about something I recently came across on Twitter. I saw a tweet that said Gen Z culture is replacing religious faith with manifestation. It's very interesting, isn't it? It seems young people of today are moving away from church and traditional religion and are finding other ways to connect spiritually. What is really going on? Is Gen Z culture leaving faith behind and finding other ways to connect spiritually? To help me unpack this, I have with me our favorite Gen Z. Janice is here to share her thoughts on this topic. You're welcome back to Blooming Voices, Janice.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, Janice, help us understand what manifestation is.
So manifestation, or let's say the word manifesting, it's all to do with the universe. So, for example, people do affirmations to, speak things into existence. So anything that they want, they use affirmations as, words of encouragement for it to help them speak the things that they want into existence and, encourage them into getting what they want.
Okay, so manifestation, I can see why a lot of people are drawing into it. It seems like you taking control over your life. It feels very empowering. Do you practice manifestation yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Tell us how you do it.
So, I'm a religious person.
Yeah.
And I also practice manifestation. Some religious people think that if you mix the two together, it's wrong. But for me, I use prayer and affirmations as my manifestation, methods. So with my prayer, I believe that when you ask, God, you will get it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's when I'm praying and I'm speaking it out loud, I'm like speaking it into existence. It's like it's kind of linked to me doing affirmations as well.
Okay, so I feel like there is something missing here, especially as a Ghanaian who was born and raised in Ghana. You know how Ghanaians can be religious. Do you feel that this is not this is moving you away from God? I hope you get what I mean when in the Ghanaian context with how we want to practice religion. Don't you feel that manifestation is moving you away from the traditional religion?
Somehow I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about the traditional religions that are being linked to Ghana,
Yeah.
I'd say yes, it is. Reason being for that is because the traditional beliefs and the traditional religious views that we have in Ghana are quite strict.
Yeah.
So when we move ourselves away from that, we feel like more free and we're taking more control over our lives.
What are some of the religious practices that you feel are strict in Ghana?
Like, let's say, leaving it to God, leaving everything to God.
Yeah.
When you pray for God, like you're telling God, oh, give me the right time for me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But when you keep on waiting on God's time, God will somehow give you a time, but you won't know because you're still relying on God, which is what I find really strict.
You find that really strict?
Yeah, I find that strict for people themselves.
Yeah.
Strict for your boundaries and strict for what you want to do.
It's like you not taking control over what you want. Yeah, I understand and I get where you're coming from. Yes, you can practice manifestation. Some people have a plan of what their life should be. But you cannot get what you want if you don't work on it. I hope that is what you mean.
Yeah.
You saying, okay, I have this in mind, I'm leaving up to God. God is going to do it for me without doing anything, without putting in any effort. That is not really going to work. So let's talk about religion. Do you think that the Gen Z is moving away from faith and are finding other ways to connect spiritually?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know that many of them are, especially on social media. I think a few weeks ago I came across this post and it was someone in the Gen Z talking about how when they moved away from religion and they were manifesting, they felt more free.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have to they didn't have to follow any religious rules for them to
Okay.
get what they wanted. So when they moved away, they felt more free and they felt like more open to receiving what they want.
Right. That is really interesting. But you know, back in Ghana, religion is a very big part of our lives, and it's everywhere. People pray about everything. Politics, going for job interviews. We also pray for traveling mercies. We literally pray over everything. But here in the UK, it's not like that. The church is not as central to people's lives as it is in Ghana. And I think that is why practices like manifestation is becoming popular, because you will not be connected to any church. People do not want to be seen or affiliated to certain churches so that they would have to adhere to their rules and regulations. So they would rather practice manifestation than, go to church. And I think in a way it's good, in a way it's not, because you are missing the sense of community here. I hope you agree with me. So when you practice manifestation, do you feel you need to connect with other people as well? Or because manifestation is about individualism, yeah? So you practicing manifestation on your own, do you miss that sense of community?
In some senses, no, because if we're delving deeper into manifestation is all about spiritual things. It's all to do with the universe.
Yeah.
And if I was manifesting it and I'm conversing about my manifestations with someone,
Yeah.
they're also able to manifest things against what I want, which is able to send signals to the universe to tell me that I don't deserve those things. So, when you're manifesting, you might as well, keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
And just do it all alone. Don't let anyone, stop you from doing what you're doing.
Okay, so why do you think young people, especially the Gen Z, feel disconnected from traditional religion? Is it because of the rules, the lack of relevance, or something else?
I think everything. Just a lot of Gen Zs, they find, being religious, very strict, because you have to follow certain rules, where you have to do certain things, to stay loyal to God. Whereas when you're not religious, you're able to do whatever. You're trusting in the universe to guide you. But as a Gen Z myself, where I've had conversations with other Gen Zs, they are saying that, when you know what to do with your life and you're not religious and all, you'll actually be able to understand that whatever you grew up with the religious beliefs, like, it feels like you were brainwashed.
Okay.
Such and such.
Yeah.
And then when you free yourself from it and you move to other spiritual, connections, you'll be able to understand more and more about yourself and the world.
Okay, so tell us how you got to find out about manifestation. Was it introduced to you by your friends, or you found out on your own?
So I found out about it in school.
Okay.
So I think this was, in year 7. Yeah, in year 7 in an RE class, and we were talking about what do other spiritual people do if they're not connected to God. And that's when I found out about manifestations, how they make affirmations to the universe and then they claim a lot of things, and that's just how I found out how manifestation works.
Okay, so I know you are a Christian, you believe in God. Do you think faith and manifestation can work together, like you believing in God and still practicing manifestation?
Yeah, I do believe that it does work. For example, if we take a look in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, it talks about if you ask and you seek, or if you knock, you will get what you want. And it's linked to affirmations and manifestations. If you ask the universe what you want, you go out for what you want, then you'll receive it.
Yeah.
So I think both the two are interlinked.
Yeah, I think there should be a way to balance the two. For example, prayer is about trusting God God's will for your life, but that doesn't mean you can't work towards your goals. As I said earlier, that you can have plans, you can have goals. If you don't work on it, there's no way they're going to manifest. But I think the key thing is remembering that while we can work hard, we can also focus on what we want. At the end of the day, we are not in control of everything, and that is where faith comes in. In Ghana, I think people mix the two together. They pray for blessings and also believe in taking action. Not all people do that. Some people are very reliant on the word of God, on what prophets or pastors say about their lives. Some pastors do not really preach according to the Bible. And as a Christian, I think you would also have to research for yourself. You don't always have to believe what people or self-acclaimed pastors or prophets say about the word of God. You can know God for yourself. You can know the word of God by yourself. Don't be fully or totally reliant on what you think a man of God is saying. At the end of it, not all men are called by God. Yeah. So manifestation. Do you have a journal that you go by it every day, or talk us through your day, how you practice manifestation?
So I start off with prayer because I think prayer is a form of manifestation.
Yeah.
I start that off. I have like little notes on my iPad to help me, recite what I'm going to say in my prayer. So I pray that through, and I add in Bible verses that is a link to manifestation in there. And then after when I'm done with prayer, I also do my affirmations, which then give me words of encouragement to go for my goals.
Right. And I'm just curious about this. Do you have a group of friends where you talk about your manifestation, like your affirmations or whatsoever?
Yeah, I do have a group of friends that talk about the affirmations. Sometimes when we're in lessons or are in lessons and we're giving group discussions, we all talk about it. And we always link it to religion because me and my friends were quite religious. So we link our affirmations and our religions together, and then we research on how we can, link it together much more better.
Okay.
And also find out more about it.
How do you feel about religion, especially as an African kid? How do you feel about religion in the Ghanaian context?
I feel like it's too strict, and I also feel like when you hear Ghanaians talk about religion, like it's all that they care about, like it's quite important to them. And I also feel like when you're quite religious and you hear religious people talk about, God and such, they can lie about it. And you can fall prey to, just as in our previous topic we talked about cult. When you're religious, when you're that religious, you can be scammed. You can fall prey to whatever people say. Yeah, and I feel like that's why most African kids are moving away from religion, because like religion in the African diaspora, it's too strict. Like everything's always linked to God, and sometimes you feel overwhelmed and overstimulated when it comes to strict religious views.
Right. About manifestation, since you started practicing manifestation, have you seen any improvement in your life?
Yeah, I have. Before I used to rely on God. I say that if whenever I did something wrong or whenever I thought I wasn't going to go for anything, I was like, okay, leave it to God. He's going to do something for me. Like when it came to, end of year exams, I'd always say, let me leave it to God. He'll help me.
Without studying.
And it went completely wrong for me.
Yeah.
And when I started doing my affirmations and my manifestations, I was like, okay, it's giving me words of encouragement for me to go and revise, for me to go and, study for important exams. And I've seen quite improvement in that.
I can resonate to what you're saying. I remember as a kid, whenever it was time to study for exams, I used to do that a lot. I used to say, I've said a prayer, I've told God to help me pass my exams, and I wouldn't study anything. I would just go to the exam hall with nothing in my what we say coconut head. There's nothing in there. And the results was always a fiasco. So I understand where you're coming from. Manifestation is you practicing or focusing on what you want, and also believing that you can have it. So it goes hand in hand. If you're a Christian, yeah, you can improve on it. I think it will help you build on your faith as well, without you staying back and being relaxed and expecting miracles to happen. And just as the word of God says, God has given us dominion over everything. So if we can take control, if we can know who we are, and the kind of power that God has given us, we will do exploits. But there we go. We have been brainwashed. I was brought up differently to you, and just as we discussed in our first episode, that some traditions you dare not question them, and I'm happy that the Gen Z, you are questioning everything out there, especially with the older generation, what they are doing in marriages, religion, climate change. You are really questioning our societal issues, and that is really good. Some of us millennials, we see that and we are like, wow, that is good. That is very, very brave of Gen Z, because we dare not question some of these practices. So Janice, share your final thoughts on manifestation. Why do you think that your audience listening to you should practice manifestation?
If you're quite religious, you're afraid of leaving your religion behind, just always remember that manifestation is definitely linked to religion. And when you're doing manifestations, just let yourself be free, be open out there, and also don't lose your relationship with God. But whilst you're manifesting, always link your manifestations to your religion or whatever you're praying for.
Right. Thank you, Janice, for joining us today. This has been a very meaningful conversation. And to our audience, it's clear that the Gen Z is looking for something meaningful, whether it's through faith, manifestation, or a mix of both. I think this is a real opportunity for the church to meet young people where they are and help them find deeper connections. To everyone listening, what do you think? Can faith and manifestation work together, or they are two different things? We would love to hear your thoughts. So share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and share. Until next time, keep blooming. Bye.